This is ZonkyTheDonkey, and today I'm going to be showing you about movement, tactical movement in this game from the perspective of a former US Army infantryman, and how games can be won or lost based on how you tactically move. Now, the reason why movement is so important in this game is because it determines so many different factors. Number one being vulnerability. Depending where you're at in the map, it opens you up to being ambushed or just being shot at or being shot at from multiple directions. Secondly, movement governs what kind of ground you stand on, whether it's high ground or low ground. Movement determines, whether you end up in cover and concealment. And one of the last things is the circle. Now, you have to be able, there's a little bit of RNG element to the circle, no doubt, but being able to plan your movement accordingly with how the circle is will set you up for success to be in the best possible chance or the best possible setup to where you won't get RNG fucked at the end of the game by the circle. Now, in a perfect world, you'll land right in the middle of the circle. You won't have to move at all. You'll land in the middle of loot, and the in-game circle with 5 or 6 people left will end right on you. But that almost never happens. So you're inevitably going to be put in a lot of positions to have to put yourself in danger by moving. And so let's talk about some key things you need to consider before you either move across an open field or, you have cover in the woods. But let's talk about safety versus speed. Now, you got to consider some things before moving. You got to consider these things. How likely am I to die by making this run across, from point A to point B? How far into the game are we? Is this the beginning couple minutes where people are going to be really spread out? Did you land around a lot of people? And you have to gauge how safe you'll be when moving. And if you determine that, hey, I have a relatively low chance of being ambushed, yeah, go ahead. You may not need to move cover to cover. You can go and sprint across an open field. If it's later in the game, you need to take a lot more precautionary measures, such as moving just very short bursts, like I am here, to hay bale to hay bale, and then just taking a quick check around. Another thing to consider is, have you heard any gunshots? That's probably the best way to determine what kind of, threat level you're under. And then one of the last thing is, how far away are you from the general landing path that the plane took at the beginning? Because you can gauge roughly how many people may or may not be around you from there. And then finally is, we're just talking about vehicles for a minute. Vehicles definitely serve their purpose in this game, and unlike H1Z1, I think they're much more risky. But I think vehicles, their main purpose, you can use them in this game is for the early game and putting yourself in a safe position where you can safely walk or hoof it, as I guess we could say, to the final few circles. So referencing the gameplay right now, I want to make a few simple points as to what I'm doing and how I'm moving, where I'm trying to move in, I believe this is the initial or maybe the second circle, but note, I'm moving to some rocks. I'm also using just some of the natural terrain. And in fact, one of the most underutilized things I see in this game is people only using trees, rocks, hay bales, and things as cover, when in fact the natural slope of the land and terrain can in fact be way better cover than any of those other things. And the reason for that is because it's so much bigger and you can move, you can maneuver around it to start flanking maneuvers, and it basically shields more of your body. So just keep that in mind whenever you're deciding where to go to. Just because it may look like it's in the open, just remember, if you can get behind a decent size small rise in the ground, it's going to provide you a pretty good tactical advantage. Now, remember, there's always going to be times where, no matter what, either the gas is coming after you or you just have an open field and there's nothing there. You're going to have to run in straight lines sometimes, and there's going to be no way to get around that. So the best thing to do is just keeping your head on a swivel by using your left alt key, looking all around you, and just basically clenching your butt up and hoping for the best. Another really underutilized portion the game I see right now is using bushes, and this is especially important kind of towards the mid to late game area where that circle is getting smaller, where there's always going to be times where you may not be able to get cover, and in the open fields, I colloquially refer to it as being a bush Wookie, where you just sit in the bush and it's really hard to see, even on low foliage. And this is situational at best. And I've seen this work a little bit better in duos and squads where, everyone in your squad goes down except for one person. They're sitting in a bush and then everyone comes up and loots and then they just spray everyone because they weren't looking there. Most people aren't looking at bushes. One of the other things when we're talking about movement as we get into more urban areas is, it's a term of, the military refers to it as pieing corners, and like pie, like a slice of pie or a pizza slice. And imagine kind of like what I'm doing here, that you are the crust of the pizza and you're going to basically slide yourself around that edge of the crust, focusing on every little new bit of ground you see as you turn the corner. That way you're always ready to engage anyone, and treat every corner, every tree, every bush like there's going to be an enemy behind it. Because I know, just like I'm sure you and I have experienced the exact same thing, where you feel like, oh, you're safe, I don't hear anyone, I don't see anyone, and then sure enough, in that one fucking bush or that one tree where it doesn't make any sense for someone to be there waiting for you, but they saw you the whole time, maybe because you were just sprinting across an open field without a care in the world, and that's why they were able to get the drop on you. Another big thing that's really important is another military term referred to it as a listening halt. And this is kind of what we're doing right now in this video. And I'm actually a solo player left in a duo with 4 people left. And essentially what a listening halt is after you take an engagement, or even when you're not engaged with the enemy at all, is to just pause where you're at and maybe just wait for 15 to 20 seconds if you have the time, and just take a look around at what you got. Because knowledge and information about your surrounding area is the biggest weapon you have. Because if you can say pretty well for sure, hey, an enemy is here, an enemy is there, I know, or I don't know whether they see me, you can calculate your next few moves ahead to get in a better position to ambush. And one of the other things we want to consider is movement based on your weapon loadout. So maybe you got fucked at the beginning of the game and all you have is a UMP9 and like a double barrel, one of the over-under shotguns. That's going to drastically alter what you need to do in the game. So you may want to be a little more aggressive in towns, playing the insides of buildings more, moving from building to building, rather than maybe running across open fields like this. Obviously, at the end of the game, you're probably not going to have that, but you can alter your movement plans based on, what weapons you have. So that pretty much wraps it up for this tutorial, guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Leave me comments, give me feedback on what you like and don't like, because I want to continue improving and putting out a better product for the community. Take care, guys, and I will see you on the battlefield.